don't be intimidated by the title. So what we're going to cover is the 3 pillars to build a sales team. It can be a $100 million sales team, or it can be a $10 million sales team, really whatever your goal is in your business. So this is like the biggest lessons I've learned over the course of the last 5 years, and boiled it down to really like 3 things, right? So I think every good sales operation, or just good operation in general, and Eugene and I were talking about this earlier, about like every sales team is built differently. And so sometimes people have a really bad experience because of whatever reason. There's a lot of different team models. There's like the genius with 100 helpers. There's like the cult of personality. There's the SEAL team, right? I mean, there's all these different types of teams that people build. And so you really got to figure out what is your team, right? I mean, what is your leadership style? Even if you desire to have a team, but even if you don't desire to have like a big team, I think in real estate for sure, it's a team business, right? You still have escrow people that are on your team. You still have lender partners that are on your team. You have home inspectors. You have all of these people that are part of your tribe that you need to get to move in the same direction in order to get to closing. And to some extent, your clients are on your team too, right? I mean, they need leadership from you. So all of these things can be applied, whether you want to lead 100 people or you just want to lead a few in the course of doing a real estate transaction. So pillar 1 is setting the foundation. This is something that a lot of times I don't think people put a lot of time and effort into thinking about in the beginning, because they just want to get going, they want to do a team, and they want to start selling real estate. And the way we started was back at Caldwell, when I was with my mom and my stepdad and eventually my brother, was I just took time. Like, I didn't want business to get in the middle of family. So I took time and I wrote a culture code down. So we still use it to this day. It's gone through a couple of different iterations. You know, I view it as a living document. If we have a better idea of how to do something, articulate something, we'll change it. But it generally defined how we treat each other and how we treat the business and our clients. And so there's a mutual understanding amongst our family, because the business was the family, and how we would treat each other. And like, one of my biggest principles in the culture code is no greed. There's so much greed in this business that I will never let money come in between a relationship. My family or my friends, I think everybody's my friend first, you know. And so that's a big one, is I always start with, hey, where's this coming from, right? Because if it's coming from a place of greed, we got to address that first, because a lot of times that's a huge problem in this business, right? It breaks up tons of relationships. And so that's the first thing is and we use the culture code anytime there's conflict, like in our team agreement, in our written team agreement, which is a contract, right? There isn't like mediation and arbitration. We point to the culture code and see if, are we violating it? Is there something we can use in here to solve this issue? But that's kind of our foundational document that we go back to. So we all have a shared understanding of how we treat each other and how we approach the business. And then a mission statement, like, what is your mission? This is our mission statement: provide a service to our clients that is second to none while enjoying the high quality of life that a real estate career provides. That's it. That's our mission, right? Service to our clients, and then enjoy the high quality of life that it can provide. Pretty simple and straightforward. And then the culture code is basically broken down into 12 principles. Of one is no greed, one is communication, be accessible. You can actually go on our team website and see the whole thing. It's on the front page of the agencyteamhawaii.com. And then the last thing on here is a value proposition, and I'll go through what our value proposition looks like. But thinking about it and being intentional about like writing down even your personal value proposition. What is your personal? Why are you different than you versus the agent across the street? What's your value proposition? Like, have you really dug deep into that and really thought about it? For me personally, when I was like an individual brand new agent, my value proposition was no pressure, high tech, 100% local. Like, if you want a no pressure real estate agent who was high technology and local, that was me, right? Like, that was how simple my value proposition was before it got more elaborate. But I just tried to define who I was very simply as a tagline on my email address, and that fed into my value proposition. This is our value proposition for our clients to work with our team. And this is more important now than it's ever been because of the whole NAR settlement. And one of our huge value propositions that we can tell a client is, if you're looking for property anywhere in the state of Hawaii, we can make it happen in 2 hours, right? Because we have agents on every single island. That's not something the individual agent can come anywhere close to performing on, because they're gonna have to find another agent and come up with an referral agreement and explain stuff to them, where it's very seamless operation. We have a team chat that everybody is on in Google Chat, and you can basically say, hey, I got a client that needs to look in Kapaa this afternoon. Can anybody do it? And somebody on Kauai will say, yep, I can do it, and we'll make that happen. So it's really cool, seamless, Amazon level support, right? It's kind of the one-click service that we can provide. We have experts in every area of real estate. This is a big one where a lot of times clients are apprehensive to sign an exclusive agreement with you, because what if you don't know about luxury real estate, or what if you don't know about fix and flip real estate? Like, we all have limited skill sets based on our experience, and this is one we can overcome because we have a team. We have a huge list of areas of expertise, and if you need agent to help in that area, we can connect you and we'll work together on a deal and make sure you have that level of expertise that you're looking for. And then the ability to service you no matter the availability of your agent. This is a big one, especially in the beginning of like onboarding a buyer client, is we let them know that, hey, we'll show you property anytime you want to see property, but just may not be with me, right? It's maybe with my partner, with my colleague on the other side of the island, whatever it is. So they don't feel like they're being pawned off when the time comes, but it's just an expectation we set early on is, hey, our priority is that your needs where they're at, but I may not be the one personally providing you with that service. And this is a thing, how many of you guys have a hard time with this? I think this is a thing realtors have a hard time with, is like, I'm the best realtor there is in town and I got to do everything, right? And I have it too, like everybody does, but I've spent the last 24 months of my life giving away every client I ever had to the team, right? And maybe it should hurt your feelings, but nobody cares. Like nobody has I ever said, hey, Ronnie's my expert on Kauai and he's gonna show you property this weekend and he'll give you a call and set that up. They say, okay, great. Like they never say, no, I want you to show me property. Like I'm not that special to anybody, right? And so that's the case also. So from the mindset of scaling a team, like you have to get beyond that of like, I gotta be the one to do it, because the client just wants to be serviced, right? They don't care that it's you actually doing it. And then 130 agents directly working on your behalf. This is on both sides of the client experience. On the buy side, definitely, and that's what most of this speaks to. But on the sell side, this is a funny discussion that's happening in our market right now, is that I felt personally attacked by this broker meeting. So we're like, the old school brokers, like we drive them crazy, right? Because we're doing stuff that like they've never seen before, and this whole team concept is insane to them. And they hate the fact that like when there's open houses, our agents go in there and get a bunch of social media content and like make a bunch of social media about it. And they feel like we're stealing their listing and like making it our own. And I'm like, we're just trying to sell your client's house. Like, don't overthink this. Like, don't take any offense to this, right? So at the last association broker meeting, they brought the attorney in from the state association to speak on like, what are the rules and ethics behind using pictures and video of somebody else's listing in your social media, right? And I'm like, okay, I know who you guys are talking to about this. And so in our listing agreements, and yours probably has a very similar clause. One of the clauses in there is that you will market the property by any and all means necessary, right? Some type of language like that, which basically is all encompassing, right? It means that you'll do anything unless you limit what that is. By signing that listing agreement, the client is giving your brokerage the ability to market it by any and all means necessary, which also means other brokers coming in and taking video and putting it on their social media, right? It's not limiting that. So it's really just a personal preference that some brokers have where they don't want us to have their listings on social media, whatever. The unwritten foundation, and this is just an understanding that has grown out of this, right? Is we treat our business partners and clients like their family. That's a big one. I think if we apply, and I'll talk about unconditional love later, if we apply that kind of mindset to our business partners and we treat them like our family, it changes the dynamic and it's just a more healthy culture. We've built this pay it forward culture, which is super cool. And I didn't do this by design, but it started with just my brother and a couple of friends, and we all helped each other. Then when a new agent would join, everybody helped them. And then when a new agent would join, that person felt like they had the duty to help the new agent because they were helped. And it's like just exponentially grown. And it's like this really cool dynamic where new agents can come into the office and they need help with something, and whoever's there will just drop what they're doing and help them. They don't have to have any compensation, not be their mentor, not have any responsibility over them, but it's just the mindset that's grown because you treat people the way you were treated, right? So think about that from a pay it forward mindset. And then the abundance mindset is a huge one. I'm a huge believer in this. There's more business out there than all of us could ever have. Like there's no scarcity in the market. We talk about this all the time. And I think if you live in that mindset, just more stuff comes, right? You got to actually believe it and live it for it to be true. And that's definitely been the case every time I've shared business, shared leads, shared splits. You always make more money the next year. It's just like if you have the mindset of I got to keep as much money as I possibly can, you make less of it the next year. So that abundance mindset is a hard thing. I think we're, as cavemen, we're not wired that way. So it's something we really got to be intentional about and really think about every day. It's just a understanding, right, amongst everybody that's where we lead from the top. And all of our very successful leaders in the team, have this mindset. It's a common theme across the leadership. All right, so that's pillar number one. Some of it is philosophical, but it's like, I think the exercise we got to go through in the beginning to set the foundation before we bring one person on, have those things defined, and they can change over time and they can be adjusted, but you got to have a common understanding written down on paper in terms of what your foundation is. So this is more tactical. Set your business up like a business. The principle here is you got to build and hire for where you're going versus where you're at. This is a thing that holds a lot of business owners back, is I don't need the employee yet, so I'm not gonna hire them. But you never have the time to build the things to need the employee if you never hire them in the first place, right? You're still doing all the business yourself. I tell brand new agents, get an accounting system, right? Get QuickBooks, get some type of accounting system. Act like you have a lot of money to account for, because one day you will. If you act like you don't have any money to account for, you're never gonna have money to account for, and you're gonna have problems filing your taxes your first year. Like, you gotta do things. You're a business owner, so you gotta do things that set yourself up for that. The other thing is like your CRM, right? A lot of people they say, well, I'm just gonna keep everything in my notebook or my spreadsheet, and they don't ever use a real CRM. But it's like, you can do that with 10 people, but can you do that with 100 and 1,000? So you got to really, from the very beginning, treat your business like a business. And then write down your goals and your vision for your business and share it with people. This is something that we do every November, December. We go through a big exercise where we do have a workbook and we work through everybody's personal goals, figure out what their vision is for the next year, help them come up with a roadmap, like I talked about in the first session about selling one house a month, like telling them exactly what they got to do on a daily basis to make that happen. So it's very clear when they're not on track. We can look back and see what their goals were. But I like to do this as a team and then figure out, what is the overall team goal. I've told everybody this is like big, hairy, audacious goal, but we want to get to 1,000 transactions. Like, that's kind of nuts going from 600 to 1,000, but we're on track to, at this point, we've already closed 340 and we're in May. So, I mean, it's definitely possible, and especially if I think the market's going to pick up over the next 6 months. So write those things down and share it and have a shared vision. Do business planning, basically, right? Okay, so this is the real tactical stuff, is document everything. This may be the most important thing to building an organization, is you have to have everything written down. So templates is a big one. We have a template for absolutely everything. I have tons and tons and tons of script libraries and follow-up message libraries and role-playing things. And I mean, there's a cut and paste message for every email you could possibly have to send. Templates for like open house things. I mean, everything you can think of, there's a template for. So I don't like to do anything twice. I'm super lazy. Like, if I do something one time, has anybody used templates in Gmail? It's like the greatest thing ever. Like a year ago, they added that. Yeah, so like, you can build templates in Gmail. So when you got to send an email to open escrow, the email is 90% the same every time. And you just got to change the dates, maybe change the client's name, change a couple of things. But you can be very efficient and do things the same every single time by using templates. So email templates are huge. Standard operating procedures. This one is hard because it takes time. But if you think you do something well, and you're the only one that can do it that way, write it down exactly the way you do it. So when you hire that person, or you bring on that buyer's agent or that listing assistant, they can follow it and do it exactly the way you want them to do it. And that's the only way you can duplicate yourself, is every single little tiny detail of your process. You probably do it special and you probably do it well, but do you articulate it well and be able to share it well is the harder part. And so we have lots of SOPs. Like, for every single lead program, there's an SOP. If you have to bring a listing on market, there's like step-by-step instructions with hyperlinks to the documents, or the websites to pull the due diligence documents, all of those things. So a brand new agent, we can literally give them the stuff that they need. And this is really cool with contracts training, is our contracts SOPs are so tight that I can take a brand new agent, they watch a couple of videos, use our contract templates, and they'll write a contract that's like 90% perfect the first time. And so it's very low labor from a training standpoint, because I've done this in I've learned from the past, where it's like, you guys know, a brand new agent, you let them just write a contract on their own for the first time, it's a total mess, right? So we got to create the systems to help them do it the right way. So step-by-step processes on everything that you do. I mean, how to make a video, how to do an email campaign. I mean, think about all the things that are important in your business and just start writing down a step-by-step process. Checklists are kind of the same thing. I think of checklists as a consolidation of a standard operating procedure. So you have the real written out instructions. People will figure out how to do that after they do it a couple of times. Then all they need is like a one-page checklist to make sure they're hitting all the boxes, right, as they go down the larger SOP. So it's a consolidation of that. And then this is an elephant, right? So this is like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. Like, what are you trying to do? What we have today is very intimidating and large, but it started one step at a time. And we ate the elephant one bite at a time. So my recommendation is like, do one thing a week or one thing a month. Just make a goal and say, I'm gonna make a standard operating procedure and a checklist for this process in my business, and just do one this month, and then do one the next month. And then after the year goes by, you're gonna have tons of resources. So don't get overwhelmed by having to do it all at once. Take it one step at a time and you'll get there. Okay, so team engagement. This is the next one that we spend a lot of time on, and it takes a lot of time. So this is a time discipline thing, is we have a lot of team engagement. So from a training standpoint, we have a crazy amount of stuff. So there's new agent training, there's scripts training, there's database training, there's lead conversion training, there's real estate 101 stuff, foundational training, buyer and seller presentations, there's tech training, there's there's training on how to use all the resources, because there's lots of resources. But this is like almost a weekly occurrence, is we're always conducting a ton of engagement. So if an agent feels disengaged, it's not our fault, right? A lot of times leadership fails by not creating enough opportunity for engagement, where our goal is always, I love it when new agents say, I'm so overwhelmed, there's so much stuff to come to. I'm like, yeah, you could be overwhelmed by not having any idea what to do, right? So you have two choices, and I'd rather you be overwhelmed by having too much to do than not enough or having no direction at all. So lots of training, lots of weekly meetings. Well, not lots, but the trainings are meetings, but then we do a weekly meeting every Wednesday. The format is basically, it almost takes a half an hour now of like wins and gratitudes. So just positive mindset. People come together, they talk about, whatever their wins were for the week, their first escrow, they got 3 escrows this month, whatever it was. It could be personal stuff. It can be just something you're grateful for. A lot of times there's gratitude amongst the team members for helping out and doing the things that fulfill our value proposition, like so-and-so showed property for me, or so-and-so wrote the contract because I was at my son's baseball game this weekend. And you hear that, and then that fosters the culture of like, okay, I got people I can rely on who will do stuff for me. And so it reinforces the rest of the things that the team is trying to accomplish. We usually have a session on, if you're having a problem, what's like the problem of the week, and we can talk about that and how to solve it. Some of it's like just group coaching, right? Where we have a message for the week and we're providing that high level kind of coaching mindset. And then we'll have guest speakers from time to time share something of value. I always joke with my lender friends that like, don't ever come to my meeting and talk about interest rates or loan programs. You'll never be invited back ever again. If you get invited to the meeting, you need to bring something of value, right? And something of value is, how can I better follow up with my leads? What is a good business practice? Like, every lender to me does the exact same thing. Like, very few have like really unique, fancy stuff, right? It's like, and that's a 1% thing that really we're not going to run into. Like, if you get to come to the meeting and have time in front of the agents, you got to bring value. Like, I don't want to hear about like your FHA, how much, what the maximum seller credit is on an FHA loan. Like, I don't care. That's your job. You figure that stuff out. I don't want any of my agents to understand that stuff. I want them to get the lead to you and you take care of that, right? So think about that and like how you spend your time, because we can be lazy about this, right? We think like we're just gonna provide a training and let them say whatever they're gonna say, and then if it's not valuable, it's not valuable. Same thing with our property managers. Like, property managers all do the same thing. I want the agents to choose who they recommend as a property manager based on the value they bring to their business, not because they like manage properties well. Like, that should be a given, right? If you're in the business. And then the culture of showing up equals success. It's all it takes. Like, if you show up, you're going to be successful. If you show up to this stuff and you come on a weekly, daily basis. My wife is a former school teacher. She works on the team now, but she's good at taking attendance. So she has like an attendance record, and it's very, very clear. The agents who start brand new and come to absolutely everything, like 6 weeks in, have an escrow, 2 months in, have 5 escrows. I mean, it's like ridiculous the amount of business they have in a very short amount of time. And the only difference is they like show up to everything. And that's the differentiating factor between a successful and an unsuccessful agent. So showing up equals success. Half the battle. That's just a quick picture of all of our teams all across the islands. Okay, so systems. This is more tactical stuff. So we're still on pillar 2, right? This is like maybe the biggest one, right? It's like the pillar 2 piece of it. So we use KV Core. Most of you guys have access to KV Core. I'm cheap. I believe that we use what's free. Like, I don't want to pay extra subscription to Follow Up Boss or whatever. Maybe they're better. I don't know. We use KV Core on a super high level. It's fine. It works for us. It's not perfect, but everybody gets it. And we pay $400 extra for the team add-on, which lets us route leads. So that's the only additional cost. You guys all are familiar with it, so I don't have to talk about it, right? Does everything. SkySlope, everybody's familiar with that. Google Workspace. So our whole business is built off of Google Workspace. So we use Gmail, Google Docs, Google Sites. All of our team resource sites are based off of Google Sites. So it's real easy to integrate Google Docs and have documents and spreadsheets embedded in them. We use other things like Canva, Redux, and Mojo for data mining resources. Or sorry, Canva's not data. Canva is, everybody knows what Canva is, right? We love Canva. It's amazing. But we have great open house templates that are like animated and stuff, and just create systems and templates for people to use. And so that was one of our best hires, was a Canva expert in the Philippines. And then don't be wed to one system. This is a thing that I always say, you should only be wed to your spouse, and everything else should be able to change, right? Like in life, because sometimes a better system will come out. This doesn't make sense anymore. It gets too expensive. And we used Sisu for years, and it just got ridiculous, and it was kind of getting hard for agents weren't adopting it at the level I needed them to. I believed in it really deeply, but the user base wasn't proving me to be right. And so I had to give up on that and say, okay, enough on that. We're going to shift away from that. And my TC team came up with a better system called Folio. I think they use Folio, but they adopted that. It worked better for them. And so we ended up shifting. But you cannot be wed to one system, right? Because sometimes it's going to change. And Just because you like it, if your team doesn't like it and they don't use it, like you're just wasting your time and you're pushing a rock uphill. Okay, so pillar 3. So pillar 1 is the foundation, all of that philosophical stuff. Pillar 2 is the business, like hardcore systems, technology, all of that stuff. And to me, pillar 3, this is a mainland friend made. You guys know what choke means? Like in Hawaii, is it choke mean? It means like plenty, like a lot. Like, you know, we have choke food. Like that's the way you describe the table. We have lots of food. Our lending partner calls me choke leads because that's like I'm obsessed with generating leads, right? So he's like a nickname for me is choke leads. So pillar 3 is leads, right? Like if to me, you're gonna have a successful sales team, you have to provide them with leads, or what are you doing, right? And so agents aren't gonna stick around if you're not feeding them business, and they're not gonna pay you a team split if you're not providing them with subsequent value or even greater value than what they're paying the team. So I've always believed leads are important, and the whole reason we started the team to begin with was I noticed that I was generating more leads than I could responsibly work, and it just made more sense to me to give them to my friends, and they gave me a split instead of me trying to chase them all myself. And then that gave me more time to generate more leads, which just ended up to more friends joining. And so again, this whole thing wasn't real strategic. It was just like, I have choke leads, so let's make more. And so this is the question though, right? I always get this, and I have a whole slide deck on this. Like everybody says, the leads suck, right? I did the Facebook leads and they suck, right? But is it you or is it the leads? Because we're gonna talk about this in a second. If you don't have leads, you're gonna die. And all leads to me are the exact same. No lead source is better than another lead source. Some convert at a higher level, but every single lead that you can generate is valuable if you have the right systems. So before you ever generate a lead, this is what you gotta do. This is like, before you ever spend $1 on lead generation or you put any type of effort into it, is you have to have follow-up systems in place to convert those leads in the long run. And this is our secret sauce. This is a thing we probably do better than 99% of sales organizations, is we have tons of follow-up systems. Are we perfect at it? We are terrible. This is like my biggest frustration in my whole life, is we don't do enough follow-up on the leads that we have, but we have plenty of systems in place that supplement that. So you got to figure out what that system is for you, right? For us, KV Core is a very big part of it. We have over 1,000-day campaigns that if you come in as a lead and we can't convert you right away, or you don't even respond to us, you go into a long-term conversion campaign, you'll get an email from me once a week with a video about buying real estate in Hawaii for the next 1,000 days. Once a week, but it goes 1,000 days, it goes like 3 years out, right? So we're gonna continue to send you information. We do retargeting on social media and Google. So once we get your email address and you put them into a custom audience, into Facebook, you can do that in Google too. You can retarget them so they always see you. So you just become familiar, right? You become a realtor in their mind, and maybe a year or two later when they're ready to buy, they'll reach out to you. And then some type of task manager that tracks that. Like what does that system look like? I have a director of this. Like that's all she does in life now, is she just tracks leads and generates leads and then follows up with agents. So that's like the next level. But in the beginning, you just have to, is it a weekly meeting where you just go down the list and we talk to everybody and see where we're at? It starts small and you'll build that up, but you got to have some process to manage the tasks and manage the leads. You got to develop valuable content. This is maybe the hardest part of the whole thing, is you have to, what are you giving the leads to actually convert them? And for us, it's video content. So if you go on my YouTube channel, there's like 350 videos now about buying real estate in Hawaii. So I don't do any property tours because that's not evergreen, right? Like property tours get views, but they're invaluable a month later once the property sells. So here's homework. Go home and write down 50 things about buying real estate in Spokane that you would want to tell somebody if they're interested. I guarantee you guys all have it off the top of your head. You could do it this afternoon, right? So that's your first year of content, is once a week, you make a video about buying real estate in Spokane and post it on social media, post it on YouTube, and you start to develop the valuable content, and then you can repurpose the valuable content into follow-up campaigns. So you got to start small. Again, it starts one video at a time. I started doing it because I'm lazy, and I would get the same 10 questions about real estate in Hawaii. Explain fee simple versus leasehold. What's leasehold property? What's up with lava zones, right? I mean, I get these questions and I'd be like, if I just make a video about this, every time I get asked, I'll just send them a video and I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to send them an email, like super easy. And so again, not strategic, just like that was my motivation, was to make content that I didn't have to spend time actually answering questions. And that just turned into hundreds and hundreds, because nothing else, just go through your purchase contract, paragraph A, and explain what that means. What is agency? Probably agency, right? What is A in your guys' contract? The agency? But just go through, right? Then you have a resource where you can build a playlist of contract explanations. And if you have a really high C client who wants to understand the contract, be like, hey, here's my playlist. And every paragraph is broken down into a 3 to 5 minute explanation of what that paragraph means. And then when it's time to sign a contract, they've already watched all the videos, so you don't have to clean a contract to them. So things like that, there's so much content that you guys can make. Neighborhood tours, best parks. I mean, the libraries are ridiculous. You could do, talk about all the libraries. You have to develop valuable content. And then that's what's going to turn into your future conversion campaigns to talk to your leads. Define what a lead is to you and how much work you're willing to put in. I have a friend who's really good at YouTube. They do like tons of business off of YouTube. He doesn't believe in any lead follow-up. Like if the lead doesn't call and isn't ready to buy, he doesn't want to work with them. But he has a very clear definition of what a lead is to him. I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. Like I want to convert that lead 3.5 years from now, right? Like I'm gonna nurture that lead as long as I possibly can. He's not right, I'm not right. He's not wrong, I'm not wrong. It's just a different way of doing business. There's other agents maybe sitting in this room that like a lead is only a referral that you get from a past client, right? You don't want to work any additional leads. That's fine too. But do you have a definition of what a lead is to you? Because that definition changes based on who you are, where you are in business, what your goals are, all those things, right? To me, any email address in the universe is a lead. So I'll take, if I can get a hold of your email address, you are a lead that I'm gonna work on converting one day, right? I'm gonna stay on you until you convert. So that's one of the reasons why I do the QR code at the end as I'm collecting all your email addresses, right? I wanna provide you with valuable real estate content, but you might be very successful one day based off of that and wanna buy a vacation home in Hawaii, and 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I wanna be the guy you're thinking about when you do that, right? So there's always value to collecting an email address. And then write all this down, right? Like write it all down. Like we're always gonna go back to write it all down, have a document you can review, have a document you can refine in the future, but all of these things will be something that you can reference and share with somebody, and then you can scale it because you have something that you can share with other agents. And then the last thing is when you hand off a lead, what are your expectations? This is a big one where it causes conflict in business because I send Ronnie a lead, but I don't tell him what my expectations are, and then he doesn't do what I expect of him, and then I'm mad at him now because he didn't do what I didn't tell him I expected, right? Yeah, I mean, this is the rule in my household is I tell my wife, I will go to the ends of the earth to make you happy, but if I don't know what that is, like you cannot expect me to do it, right? Like you have to tell me what you want. Like I'm not a mind reader. So this is a big one is in business, what is it that you expect of your people? And we have tons of training on this, and they let me down and disappoint me all the time, but I continue to do training on it, right? Like here's the 4 things I want you to do as soon as you receive the lead. Here are the 4 things I want you to do within the next 7 days after you get the lead. If none of that works, I want you to put them on the long-term lead campaign and then let us work them through the system for the next 3 years. Like very clear instructions on what I want you to do, so there's no misunderstanding. And if you're not doing the first 4 things and the second 4 things, then we got to reevaluate whether or not we should be giving you leads. Very clear criteria, right? So set your expectations. Okay. Oh, and I mean, on this is a funny thing, right? Is Zillow's a big lead source for us, and they have a very clear script they want you to use when you answer the phone. And people were very resistant to it at first. Like they just wanted to answer the phone however they felt like they wanted to answer the phone. And whether you like Zillow or you don't like Zillow, the bottom line is they do more lead generation and lead interaction than like anybody in the universe, and they know what works, right? So they figured out after listening to thousands and thousands and thousands of phone calls that if you want to convert a lead, the first thing you have to ask for and the thing you have to focus on is what? The appointment, right? Before you do anything at all, if you can book an appointment and we can get you in front of the lead, your likelihood of converting that lead into a client goes up exponentially, right? You don't ask, how are you? Because they don't know who you are. You don't actually care how they're doing. Like, don't answer the phone and say, how are you? Like, it's the worst script ever, right? So book the appointment. They want to go see a house. We'll book the appointment. Now we got to get them to sign a buyer's rep agreement, all that stuff. That's separate. We're incorporating that into the process. But that was a game changer for us because now everybody applies that to everything. Is like, get in front of them. If you can get in front of them via Zoom or in person, your likelihood of making them a client goes exponentially through the roof. So focus on that. And expectations, right? Once we set that expectation and people started doing it and they saw that it worked, then proof of concept, and then they keep doing it and it just builds upon itself. So that was a big one. So lead sources, again, there's lots of them. Here's just some examples of the ones we use. Social media, Facebook and IG. We do paid and organic. The paid stuff, we're focusing right now on relocation guides. So providing something of value. I believe that helps you with lead conversion if you do an active service. So don't just give us your email address because we have like a clickbaity link. Like if you give us your email address, we're gonna send you a relocation guide that's specific to the island that you're interested in. So we're doing an active service right off the bat. We do landing pages in KV Core for like homes under a certain price point. We'll do first-time homebuyer guides. So again, an active service, we provide them a homebuyer guide based on where they're looking. So figure that kind of piece out. Is what is your real simple value proposition? If they give you an email address, what are you giving them back? And then organic also. I mean, the agents who do a ton of social media just create organic leads. And we have one agent on a team. She's literally like the number one agent in the entire state. She does like 80 transactions every 12 months. It's like, that's like inhuman in Hawaii. Like nobody, like best agents do 30. She does like 3 times as many as them. And it's like all TikTok and Instagram. Like it's ridiculous. But instead of making phone calls for 2 hours a day, she's 27. So she's also like very young. And she spends 2 hours a day making social media content. That's her prospecting, right? It works for her, and you can go follow her, Justice Pang. She's amazing. But that's her way of prospecting, is to make social media content. And she spends a lot of time doing it, but it works. Referral partners. This is a big one, is like how involved are you in networks, right? Like your local networks, but being in national coaching programs. Tell me, Tom Ferry coaching programs, we get lots of leads from those folks. Going to national events. So going out to EXP events in other places, and now I get the opportunity to speak at those things, so I get a lot more exposure. But before, I would just go and meet as many people as you possibly can. You guys are lucky because you're in a relatively small town. If you go there and you're from LA, there's like 1,000 people from LA, right? But if you're from Hawaii or from Spokane, there's probably not that many people. So just make partnerships and meet people. And when they have referrals, you have inbound referrals. So get involved in those things. Facebook groups, workplace. Are you guys involved in workplace? Which is going to get shut down. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. Have you seen that's a big dramatic thing in EXP? It's YouTube. I probably beat this down. I mean, any other questions? I mean, to me, YouTube is by far the best lead source ever known to man. And if you're not doing it, like, you're giving away the easiest way to generate tons of business. I'll talk briefly about the system. The YouTube system is generate a valuable piece of content, have a good call to action in the description. What we use, the first thing is, if you want to talk more about your real estate plans, here's a link to book a meeting. It's a Calendly link, and they book meetings with us. So it's like completely inbound, right? Like it's so easy because like we don't even have to follow up. Like they're actively booking a meeting. All I gotta do is show up on Zoom and talk to them when the meeting time comes. And so that's what you want to use it for, is make it easy for people to get in touch with you, and they will. You'd be surprised at how that works. And then like the system for us is, when that happens, there's a little form that they fill out. They tell us about where they're looking. I'll get an agent that's an expert in that area. They'll be on the call with me. So the lead will come in, we'll do the buyer consultation. The agent will be there that's actually going to do the work. You know, we talk, we do the handoff, and then they take it from there. Our leads assistant is on the call too. She's setting them up in a KV Core drip campaign and a property alert as the call's going on. If they need lending, the email goes out right afterwards, introducing them to our lender. So all that stuff is happening like really quick, and it's live. And so that's how the whole YouTube system works. But by far, I mean, the best, because you're building trust and confidence, and you never have to meet them. And by the time you do meet them in person, there's no conversion in terms of like having to give them a value proposition. Like you've already given them a value proposition via YouTube. And so it's a really easy conversion. Zillow Flex, if this is an opportunity you have to be access to a Zillow Flex team, it's kind of exclusive. I'm a huge believer in it. I know people have different mixed views about Zillow. I just feel like it's a gold mine for us. I mean, we did 130 transactions last year for like 60 million in volume just off of Zillow. So it's a gold mine, and I think it will continue to be. But that's a big piece of our business, like 20%. So it's not like a huge, not 50%. It's like 20% of our overall business. And then industry partners. So Evolve's a vacation rental partner that I built a relationship with, and so if they have somebody who needs to sell their vacation rental, they don't do sales, so they send them to us. Bigger Pockets does investment education, so people who want to become a real estate investor are part of that. And if they need a referral for a realtor, they send us their leads. Property managers are a big one. We make friends with lots of property managers, because if they don't sell and they need to sell their units, their owners need to sell, they come to us. So just think about who else is in your industry that, divorce attorneys are a good one, probate attorneys. There's lots of different ideas out there in terms of industry partners that you can partner up with to make them a lead source. All right, so lead conversion. I don't think agents are naturally good at this. So training, tons and tons of training. This is the other one, goes back to expectations. Like, what are you doing on a training standpoint to get better? And even if you don't personally have the skills, like Zillow has tons of even free stuff to any agent. There's people like Ronnie who can do amazing conversation and language types of training, and like getting third-party resources to help you train yourself and your agents on how to get better and winning the first conversation. That's a big one, is how do we connect and build rapport on conversation number one? Because if you don't do that, like, then you never get to conversation number two. So that's a huge focus. We do a weekly call on Tuesdays where we actually listen to calls, and We'll listen to like a couple of good ones and a couple of bad ones, and then we'll just discuss it and mastermind it. Agents were super uncomfortable with that in the beginning, but they got over it really quickly because of how valuable it was. And it's funny now because they'll have a terrible call with like a hostile client and they'll like volunteer, like, listen to this, how could I have won this client over? And I'm like, that person was crazy, there's nothing you could have done, you know. but like they really want to know, like, how can I get better, because this call went so bad when I feel like I'm pretty good at this. And so that's a big one, right? The analogy is the best sports teams watch tape, right? They watch tape of themselves and their opponents, and they learn from that and they get better. And we as agents and salespeople don't do that, right? We just think we're great in our own minds, and we never get a critique from Ronnie. And I were just talking about this morning. His wife was critiquing a agent phone call he was having, and he's like, I thought I did great, but she thought I was, doing, she didn't think he was doing as great as he thought he was doing, right? But we need that, right? And actually, this is like legitimately one of the reasons I tape this for social media content. But my wife rewatches this stuff and she coaches me. She's like, don't use that word anymore. Like I'll say like inappropriate words and stuff, or she's like, the way you said that didn't sound right. And so I need that feedback, right? To get better. So training, asking the right questions. Again, that's just going back to training, asking open-ended questions, not yes or no questions. Those discovery, tell me the dream, why is that important to you? That's a big one, right? Is why is that important to you? Tell me more about that. So training on all of that. Working with our lending partners, this is a relatively new thing that we're doing, but like I think I talked about earlier, like we have 3 lenders that are dedicated to our team. They're deeply integrated, and they help us in the conversion process. So when we give them a lead, they're gonna weekly meet with that agent to see what the latest status on that lead is, to make sure that nothing's falling through the cracks, or if they're not filling out the loan application, the agent can check on why and go back and forth. But I think having that 2-headed dragon to follow leads is super important. So finding that partner that will help you do that. Short, long, and medium-term strategies, short, medium, and long-term strategies. Again, the short-term stuff is the first conversation. The medium stuff is like working with the lender to make sure that they actually move down the funnel. And then the long-term stuff is that 1,000-day follow-up campaign afterwards. So having all 3 of those strategies in place and being good at them. And then the systems, we've talked about this, a lot already, but they're not going to convert right away. So what are you doing from a long-term basis to convert the leads? And then consistent messaging and accountability. This is definitely a lesson my wife taught me. She's like taught 4th grade for 16 years. And she's like, real estate agents are just like 4th graders. Like you have to tell them stuff over and over and over and over again. So message consistency. I feel like I'm the kind of person that you could tell me something once and I'll learn it and implement it and do it. It's just my personality. But a lot of times we just are doing buyer's rep training right now, and we've been doing it for 6 months. And I feel like I'm just being repetitive and saying the same things. And yesterday we did a training in Oahu, and like the agents were like, just thought it was the most intelligent thing they've ever heard. And I'm like, I thought I talked about this like last week, right? But it was on Zoom and maybe they weren't listening. But just always being consistent on the messaging and not saying one thing once and then forgetting about it and expecting people to do it. So that's a big one, is accountability. Talked about this over and over again, but the most underrated lead conversion tool to me is email campaigns and just having that value added. This is what it looks like. It's a video of the week. It's got a video from me. This is market data 22 versus 23. And it's just something that's already on YouTube. All you got to do is cut and paste the address into KB Core and it auto loads the picture. Very, very easy. Cut and paste the description from YouTube. It's basically YouTube ripped off and then put into an email. We talked about the 50 things, right? Really, you don't need 50. You need 52 minus 12, because once a month you should do a market update. And that's what's going to give you your how's the market answer, right? Is if you make a video about it, you're going to have to do the research and have a 5-minute answer on how the market is. So that's a big one, is having the market update video. It's an easy piece of content and it's an easy piece of social media content that you have to do every month. And then calls to action is the other big one. Is we always have buttons inside of the email. Book a meeting here, get a free we do the property evaluation there because some people might click on that, download our resource guide, all of the stuff that you're already doing in other places you can put into the email, because they may not find you on all of the other advertising platforms, but if you have their email address, you can deliver it to them directly and put it in front of them on a regular basis. Okay, this is just my proof of concept slide. This girl, Julia, who joined us in December of last year, did like 3 deals the whole year, and then she had like 3 closings in January of 23 and 6 more in escrow. This is a brand new agent. She had 12 units at 4 million in her first 8 months. Soraya is one of our rock stars. She did like 16 million in her first 18 months. Lonnie's the one I was talking about earlier that changed the script. She did 30 transactions in her first 24 months. This is a new guy. He sold cell phones forever. He's my brother's classmate. I'm like, dude, you should sell real estate, not cell phones. And he did 14 units in his first 12 months. And then Justice, who I talked about too, she did 79 units in 2023 and is like #1 in the entire island. So the systems work, right? I mean, I know they work if you put the time and effort into them. Okay, so these are like the last 2, like the truth, right? Like all of this sounds great and it's sounds very sexy, but the truth is you're gonna do way more work before you do less, right? If you're gonna scale anything and you're gonna scale a team, there were years, I mean, 3-4 years in the beginning where I would do my regular real estate work during the day and produce, right? Show property, do open houses, and then at night, work on SOPs and work on checklists and build systems and think about scripts and all that stuff. So it's always, I think people think like, I'm gonna build a team and I'm just gonna go to Kauai and vacation all the time. Like, no, like you're gonna work as much or more, you're just gonna do different things, right? You may not be doing the open houses, but you're gonna be doing other things, training, building processes, figuring out how to generate leads, all of that stuff, managing people. So there's always gonna be more work. You're gonna spend your own money to grow. This is a big one, drove my wife crazy for years. I mean, I spent a ton of money on stuff, right? On advertising, on building systems, on software. So this is another one where I think people think like, I'm gonna start a team and then just make all this money, where really there's a ton of investment that goes into it. And it's still to this day, one of the most uncomfortable things about having an organization like this is the overhead, right? Like I spend like $20,000 to $40,000 a month just to like keep the operation running. And if we don't produce, like that money's gotta get spent no matter what, right? And so that's a big one, is managing that as it grows, but just knowing that you're gonna take on that responsibility. So if you don't like that pressure, then don't do it. But it's not just money falling from the clouds, right? Which I think the expectation that some people have. Many teams are not profitable, right? Which is a problem. So that's one of the things you want to focus on is profitability. You're gonna face lots of challenges, people, money, relationships, all of that. It's gonna get tough. The more people you have around you, the more challenges. This is one, a human aspect, right? Is you're gonna feel underappreciated. I am pretty good because I don't have a lot of feelings, but this makes my wife mad a lot. But this is the kind of stuff that happens, right? That makes you want to quit. Is we'll get a brand new agent, we'll give them all this help, we'll get them all this support, and then like 5 months in, like they don't do anything, and they get a listing, and they're like, oh, I want to leave the team because they don't want to pay a split on the listing, right? And it's like, bro, like, you know, like you wouldn't even be here or have any, or they question the splits. You know, you give them all the training and then they give them a lead and they finally convert their first lead and they feel like they're being ripped off. And it's like, you should get none of that. Like you should give me 100% of that revenue, right? So, but again, it's just humans. Like they do what they do. You can't let that hurt your feelings. You can't let it hold you back from continuing to grow and move forward, because it's just gonna happen. I joke about this all the time. I tell the team, you disappoint me every single day. Like I wish you would call the leads more. I wish you would work harder. I wish you would come into the office more. But again, this cannot stop you from doing the things that you got to do to move forward. And I'm a huge believer that if you're going to be a leader, you know, the speed of the pack is determined by the speed of the leader, right? And if I ever feel like I'm being outworked, like I am failing, right? So I should always feel like you're not working hard enough, is if I'm doing my job properly, is my mindset. So again, these are things that your monkey brain will tell you, you know, the negativity in your brain will tell you that will stop you from moving forward, but you cannot, because disappointment is just going to be part of the game, and it's okay. It is what it is. You just got to keep moving forward. And this is a big one that's been a challenge for me personally, is like we've had teammates over the years that were with us in the beginning that like didn't share the vision of a huge team, and like they wanted small, they wanted simple, and we really had to decide like which direction we go in. Do we restrict growth to make these people happy and hold everybody back, or do we just say, hey, we can still be friends, but you got to go figure out something to do, right? Because if you want it to be different, if you have a different vision, I support your vision, but that's not my vision. We're going to do, you know, we're going to go where we're going. And this is a big piece. And I think I luckily don't have it from like in my family life, but this is a big thing I think a lot of agents face, is like their spouse doesn't share their vision, their parents don't share their vision, their kids don't share their vision, and it really holds them back in what they're doing. And it's something you're going to have to deal with, but you got to have that conversation. I feel bad sometimes when like agents, you know, their spouse like gives them grief about working so hard or working on the weekends, and like because they got a big vision to succeed at a high level and they're not getting that support at home. So you got to have that conversation. You got to have those tough, you know, sometimes maybe confrontations with those people in your life. And if they aren't necessary in your life, get rid of them, right? Like you don't have to have friends that don't share your vision, because they're not really your friends, right? They should be supporting you no matter what. So be okay with that. Okay, and the final, the secret sauce. So these are somewhat concepts, but this is a big one, is employees versus partners. The only employees we have on our team are VAs. They're the only people that like work on an hourly basis. All of the leadership are paid on commissions. So the success of their position and their salary, you know, their salary is based off the success of the team. And so I haven't met another real estate operation that does this. Everybody else has employees. Everybody thinks I'm nuts, but it just worked out better, right? Because everybody's a partner. Like if you want to take on a leadership role, you want to manage a lead program, you want to manage an island, you're going to get paid based on the production of that operation, and you're not going to get a salary. And it usually works out better if you're a partner, because if the team grows and the team succeeds, you make more money. But people looking for a job are going to treat it like a job, and they're not going to have that shared vision of growth. So think about that when you're bringing on a buyer's agent, right? People are like, how much should I pay a buyer's agent? And I'm like, give them a percentage, like 10% or 15%, like buy them in to your operation so they have an incentive on those leads converting. If you just pay them $20 an hour, they're just gonna show up and work for 8 hours a day, and they don't care if your leads actually convert, if they do a good job, if they show up in good clothes to show property. Like, they're not gonna care because they're just gonna get paid no matter what. So you gotta make them a partner in the outcome. Value potential over experience. I learned this in the military and definitely in some of my previous experience in politics, but I think we look too often for like that really experienced, smart person who has the degree and has the credentials versus that young, hungry agent who has the potential to really be a rock star. And that's what we've built our entire operation off of. Is like, we have very few experienced, seasoned people. They're new people that have the ability to work and have potential. I talked about this earlier, right? Dedication versus process. Dedication to process versus outcome. Don't assume you know what your rock stars will look like. Some of my best people are people that I had zero faith that they would ever work out. Like, if you asked me to judge them when they came in, I would be like, and I use our leads manager who's a total wizard. She's a blonde girl from Ohio that was a bartender, and I met her on Instagram because she wanted to go look at a property, and I went and showed it to her, and as soon as I met her, I'm like, this chick has no money, she's not gonna buy anything. And 6 months later, she called me and said, hey, I got my real estate license, can I join your brokerage? And she came and she joined, didn't really do anything for the first couple of months, and then one day walked in and said, I will do anything to succeed, like, what do you need me to do? And I'm like, I need somebody to manage all these leads and figure out the database. She came back 30 days later, learned it all on herself, and now manages like literally thousands of leads, and it's just probably one of the best people in the nation, I would say, on KV Core. I judged her wrong, right? Like, I was wrong about her in the beginning. So don't assume you know what your rock stars are gonna look like. Trust people until they give a reason not to. My default position in operations is like, I trust you until you give me a reason not to. And I think too much in this business, like, we're very distrusting, we're very pessimistic about people, and people feel that, right? So if you exude trust and you exude confidence, they're gonna give it back to you, so be conscious of that. Don't let 1% problems stop you from taking actions with 99% benefits. This is my best example of this, is I run a ton of social media ads, right? On the daily, I get a nasty comment that says, I'm a terrible person for selling Hawaiian lands, and it's illegal what I'm doing, and whatever. It's calling me nasty names, even though I was born and raised there. That happens to people, and they're like, I gotta stop running social media ads, even though I made 100 leads off of that ad, right? So what do? Block and delete, and I keep making, and I generate 100 more leads, right? So this is the kind of thing, like, you're gonna get that negativity. You cannot let that 1% negative person stop you from doing the right thing, right? You're gonna make your first video, you're gonna get a bunch of positive stuff from it, you're gonna get leads, and one person is gonna say, you misspoke, or your hair was ugly, or whatever. You're gonna say, I shouldn't do it anymore, right? Like, never mind that person, do the right thing, keep working, and 99% benefit. Okay, practice unconditional love. Because it started with a family team is just a concept that's super important to me, is that if we treated people in business like we treat our family, like, we wouldn't have a family, right? And the best example of this is, you have a transaction coordinator, so you can spend more time generating leads, and they miss something. And you say that they're a terrible person, I'm never working with them again, and you have no forgiveness, right? Because they're a business person in your life, and now you gotta go find a new transaction coordinator. Even though 99% of the time that transaction coordinator did a great job for you, right? Like, just practice a little bit of unconditional love, right? Like, have some forgiveness, have some grace, because if we treated our spouse like that, or we treat our kids like that, like, we wouldn't have a family life. And in business too often, right? It's like, we hand the lead off, and I tell the new agents all the time, like, I'm gonna give you leads, you're gonna screw it up, and I'm still gonna love you afterwards. Like, so don't worry about it, because if you close 9 and you screw up 1, I'm happy with the 9 that you closed. The one that you screwed up, I'll forgive you for, and we're gonna keep moving forward. And you'll screw up less and less and less over time, and you continue to generate lots of business, right? So unconditional love is an important thing. So sometimes when you feel like mad and you wanna yell at somebody, just ask yourself, should I practice some unconditional love here? And then speak your intentions out loud. So this will end with this. There's an event on Maui that one of our big agents does, and from stage in February, so this is February of 23, I was telling this story and talking about some stuff, and the #1 team leader in the country was in the audience. And I told the story about the production of the team, and we ended the year at number 20 that year in the company. And I said, Kenny, I'm coming for you, right? This is the #1 team leader in the country. From stage, I tell him, I don't know, it just like came to me. I didn't plan it, but it came to me. And 1 year later, 12 months later, this is where we're at. So this is him. Team Fast is #2 and we're #4, right? So it's one of those things where you just gotta speak it into existence. Like, have you said out loud what your goals are, what your aspirations are? Have you told your family? Have you told your friends? Have you told the people in the room? Because if you're not speaking it out loud, nobody hears you, right? The universe doesn't hear you. If you believe in God, God doesn't hear you. Like, you gotta do it and be intentional about it. So think about that. What are your goals? And then tell some people. There's accountability, but there's also just the intention of putting it out into the universe and the energy. is going to make it happen. So speak it into existence. All right, this is your Hawaiian language lesson for the day. All right, if we say kina, ole. So here's the cool thing about Hawaiian language is Hawaiian language has two different meanings. There's like poetic meanings, and then there's the literal translation. And so kina ole, kina means without, and ole is like a flaw, right? So kina ole means flawless, right? Like without a flaw, without a blemish is what it means literally. But the poetic translation is I will do the right thing at the right way, at the right time, in the right place, to the right person, for the right reason, and with the right feeling the first time that I do it. And I just think it's like just an amazing principle to live by, right? If you live by kina ole, the world will be a better place and you'll be much better off, right? We'll all be better off. So kina ole. All right. Thank you guys. That's it. If you follow me at Kona Broker on Instagram and you DM 100M, you'll get the slides. So ManyChat. You guys use ManyChat? Another hack. So you can set autoresponders up inside of your social media. So like I will put at the tagline of all my social media, if you want to set up a consultation, book meeting, send me the word meeting and I'll send back a Calendly link so they can book a meeting. I'll do that for like coaching for agents and all that stuff, but you'll see how it works. So find me on Instagram, DM me 100M, and you'll get the slides sent back to you. All right, right on, guys.